Warning, this video contains team selection and captain choices which some viewers may find offensive.
Hey guys, and welcome back to FPL TV. Before looking at my score for Game Week 7, a quick word about OneFootball who have kindly sponsored this video. The world's best football news app is now even better, relaunching with a fresh new design. Gain access to news, scores and stats from leagues all over the world with a brand new interface that's cleaner, simpler and smarter than ever. As for FPL, you can follow each team in the Premier League and get live updates from all the goals and assists every game week. Download it for free using the link in the description box below. For Game Week 7, the big decision last week was the three-way captaincy between Mo Salah, Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. I opted to go with Son last week, and agonisingly he was the only one of the three that blanked. The hardest part to take is that I actually put a lot of thought into this one, and with his form, consistency, and against an attacking Brighton team who could be vulnerable on the counter, I really thought this game would suit Son, especially against a fairly high defensive line. I still believe that captaining him had plenty of reasoning and was a solid pick, so no regrets there once again. But just like Mo Salah against Sheffield United in the previous game week, I just cannot get that rub of the green with captaincy. I guess my main takeaway from all of this is that by captaining players on penalties, you always have that extra bit of insurance, and that's what Mo Salah and Harry Kane both proved last weekend. In defence, I spoke last week about selling the out-of-favour Ben Davies and transferring in Ben Chilwell of Chelsea. The Blues have been much improved in defence in recent games, with Thiago Silva and their goalkeeper Mendy having a huge impact. Fortunately, that was a transfer that did pay off last week, with Chilwell getting a clean sheet and Chelsea continuing their good defensive form. That was the only clean sheet of the game week for me though, and once again the expensive Alexander-Arnold couldn't keep a clean sheet at home to West Ham. With Man City away up next, this week does look as good of a time as any to finally sell Alexander-Arnold. But with me also having other weaknesses in my squad, he may just survive this one last game week before I then likely use the wildcard in the international break. In Game Week 7, I had very high hopes for Phil Foden against Sheffield United, who had put in a string of good performances in recent games. Although I'm fully aware that he's a rotation risk, honestly I didn't expect him to be benched for 2 consecutive league games. I can't really have too many complaints here, because owning Foden was always going to come with its risks, and at 6.6 million, it's not the end of the world if he does miss a game here or there. But still, at this moment, he's not getting enough minutes to produce points in my team, and that is certainly a concern. The game week on Monday morning was looking very bleak, with only 2 players left to play on Monday night in Mitrovic and Harvey Barnes. Ironically, the 2 players I wanted out of the team both ended up surprising me with returns, and with 8 points apiece, they salvaged what looked to be a disastrous game week. Both of them are still very much in my list of players to transfer out, but it was a nice surprise to be given a parting gift from the pair. So for Game Week 7, it was a mundane score of 49, below par and below the average of 53. Certainly another underwhelming game week, and I still feel like I'm yet to get my season started. On the other hand, it could have been much worse, especially with my captain Son blanking, and despite the drop in rank to 2.6 million, the returns from Mitrovic and Barnes definitely softened the blow. In some ways, I feel like excluding my captain, the 10 other players in my team did their job, and 45 from 10 players really isn't too bad. What you then need though is your captain to do the business, and had Son scored let's say a realistic 10 points, then that takes a 45 point game week up to a 65 point game week, and all of a sudden the context of the week is completely changed. Sure, I can beat myself up about having a poor squad, a poor game week, etc, but ultimately if your captain keeps blanking then it is very difficult to make progress. I've had 4 captaincy blanks from 7 to begin this season, and my highest captaincy score has been 7 points. So I'm still remaining hopeful that in future game weeks, if I can nail a few captaincy decisions, then I can still turn this season around. A few plum captaincies can really shoot you up the rankings, and it's important to remember that if you are struggling like me. It's likely I'll be using the wildcard during the international break as well, and hopefully that too can really kick things into gear. So let's move on to Game Week 8 now and check out my transfer plans as well as my Game Week 8 lineup. Also, if you enjoy the content here at FPL TV, then be sure to drop a like and most importantly get subscribed. You can also hit the notification bell so you always know when a new video goes live. For Game Week 8, there's been one free transfer so far this week, with Harvey Barnes making way, and in comes the informed Jack Grealish. A bit of a straightforward transfer, I think. It's not a move I can get particularly excited about, because at this point, every man, woman, and their dog have already got Grealish in their team. With his already huge ownership, and with a couple of big scores that I've already missed out on, I do feel a bit too late to the party on this one, and any points from him going forward won't really improve my ranking. But even so, he's a player that I've spoken about for a good few weeks now, and despite being behind the curve on buying him, I'm just happy now to finally have him in the squad. His next fixture away to Arsenal isn't the best on paper, who in recent games have shored up defensively. For this reason, buying Grealish this week probably isn't the optimum time to do so, but I can't keep on finding excuses not to buy him every week, especially with his price constantly going up. Ultimately, his fixtures after this game and for the long term are simply too good to ignore. Of course, there's plenty of other players I'd like to bring in this week, such as the popular Bamford, who I've been very impressed with. Despite his blank over the weekend, he again had two very big chances, and the way that Leeds play, he's only going to get more. At 6 million, he just looks to be a bargain, and I really like how attacking Leeds look in general. Unfortunately, with no money left in the bank, I can't afford to upgrade Mitrovic to Bamford, so it's looking like I'm going to have to wait until next week on the wildcard. So with Barnes to Grealish, the one free transfer so far this week, let's see how the team now currently lines up. I'd say for 6 of the opening 7 game weeks so far this season, I've been fairly happy with my starting 11. But this week, I am going into Game Week 8 not feeling too optimistic about my team's chances. With the big guns Man City and Liverpool facing each other, it was always going to be a bit of a tricky one, and with Foden, Salah and Trent all in this one, it is far from ideal. Having been benched for 2 consecutive game weeks, Foden is becoming a real headache for me now. But with no money in the bank, I'm not sure I like any alternative in this price for a -4 hit. Yes, I could take a punt on Jota at Liverpool, but I think I'll just hold Foden this week and cross my fingers that he starts. With the likelihood being that Liverpool will concede in this fixture, well, I'm just going to have to hope that Trent Alexander-Arnold can produce something going forward. With Charlie Taylor against Brighton on the bench, or even Mitchell if he is past fit, I do have the option there to bench Alexander-Arnold, but it just never feels right benching a £7.4 million asset, even despite being away to Man City. As for the rest of the squad, I'd say I'm fairly happy this week, except perhaps Mitrovic, who's away to West Ham. Fulham's performance last weekend was a bit more promising, and the Serbian was heavily involved. So who knows, maybe he can get something against the Irons, and this will no doubt be his last week in my team. Using my wildcard this week was once again a consideration, and it's something I've been on the periphery of doing for a while now. But the plan, I think, is to grind through Game Week 8, and then utilise my wildcard in the international break, with a nice 2 weeks to assess the international games, and provide a bit more time to build a squad. From Game Week 9, there's also a few teams with some big fixture swings. For example, after facing West Brom, the very popular Tottenham players in Kane and Son have a much more difficult run of games. If I wildcarded this week, then there's no way I'd want to go without them before facing West Brom. However, next week, I can probably afford to drop one if not both of them, and look to capitalise with some differentials. For the captaincy this week, with West Brom losing 2-0 to Fulham last time out, I don't think I need to look any further than the Tottenham boys, who will no doubt be extremely popular options. Opting between Kane and Son does once again feel like a bit of a coin flip, but because of the insurance of penalties that I mentioned earlier, I think I'm going to opt for Harry Kane this week. Kane is also outperforming Son in terms of underlying stats, with him having 31 shots to Son's 15, twice as much in 7 games. He's also had more shots on target, twice as many shots inside the box, and they're both level on big chances with 8 apiece. As mentioned, Kane is also on penalties, so a bit of insurance there, and is also outperforming Son on creativity, with Kane creating 8 big chances to Son's 3. Harry Kane just looks to be the complete package this weekend, and I really hope he does the business for me. So that's how my team currently lines up for Game Week 8. Of course, there's still European games to be played in midweek, and any injuries in those may impact what I do before the deadline. But if you do want to see the final team, then I'll post it over on Twitter shortly before the game week deadline. Good luck to you all for Game Week 8, FPL responsibly, and I'll catch you all soon.